Kathleen Frith for Edible Education 101. I'm here with Haile Johnston. Haile's the co-founder of Common Market, a food hub in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
That's right.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So I'd love to hear about sort of how you started the food hub. What was the personal story that led you to begin Common Market?
Sure. So the story of Common Market really begins in our own community. My wife and I were doing work in environmental justice with youth, a lot of nutrition education programs, after school and summer programs with kids, urban ag projects, community gardens, a lot of blight reclamation. And we were constantly working to try to figure out how we could expand access to good food in our own community. And came to the realization at a certain point that we could probably work for a couple more generations doing urban ag work in our neighborhood and really wouldn't move the bar on the health outcomes of our neighbors. And so we started working with other folks in communities around ours, other partners doing regional food system work, to try to impact access at a more systems level.
Mm-hmm. And so how'd you do it? What's going on now with Common Market? What's
Sure.
it look like?
Yeah, so now Common Market's evolved over the last 8 years into a thriving nonprofit social enterprise. We work every day to expand access to good food for all people while improving the viability of family farms in our region. And what began as this little idea in our community of Strawberry Mansion has blossomed into a multi-region initiative. So we aggregate and distribute food from sustainable family farmers, and what began in the Mid-Atlantic region has now also replicated to Atlanta, Georgia. And so we're in the process of launching the Common Market Georgia, which is our first stop, hopefully, to many other locations around the country.
Great. And so tell us a little bit about sort of the mechanics of it. How does it work?
Sure. So we are very much focused on infrastructure, on bricks and mortar and logistics. So we own all of our own trucks. We also own our own facilities. We work with about 90 family farms and processors currently in the Mid-Atlantic region, and a fewer in the South right now. And we work with them on a daily basis to know what's coming out of the fields and at what prices. We communicate that to our customers, which are primarily institutional food service operators. So the majority of the work that we do is in partnership with schools, hospitals, and elder care, which for us is the way. It's really the market segment where we feel like we can have the most impact on the health and well-being of vulnerable populations. Mm-hmm. So we communicate the availability and the pricing to food service directors and chefs, and they order, they place orders with the foods. Most of our products are picked to order and delivered within 24 to 48 hours of the order. Mm-hmm. So it's this constant process of communication up and down the value chain, communicating not just prices and products, but also values.
And how is it that you can compete with some of the more conventional systems? Like, why would a hospital choose you over, some of the larger, maybe perhaps easier or more accessible systems that are providing conventional food?
Yeah, so we never seek to cost compete with large-scale conventional distributors. And we, I think, successfully make the argument that our product is very different. It is differentiated by its values. It's differentiated by the impact that procurement has on our regional economy. And it's differentiated by the impact on our environment. And so while we are perhaps marginally more expensive in some cases, we are in the range of what's acceptable for institutional food service. And our whole model has been designed to achieve appropriate degree of scale and with a focus on the systems that allow us to meet the needs of institutional food service.
So, and those institutions that are choosing a slightly different product, what other value aside from giving nutritious food to their clients are they getting from that relationship?
Sure. So it's interesting. We surveyed many of our institutional partners a couple years ago, and we were actually surprised to find that the number one reason that they buy the food is so that they can have an impact on regional economies. So institutions, especially anchor institutions in communities, understand the impact that their spend has on regional economies, and there's this opportunity to inject more money into the community where they exist. So building health and wealth in the communities where they operate.
And are you able to keep up with demand, or do you have
Yeah.
more demand than supply?
Well, I think we're definitely blessed to be located in the Mid-Atlantic region where there is just an abundance of sustainable family farms doing the good work. And so supply has not been a challenge for us to date, except for, I'll say, in the winter months where there's a little more competition for anything that has been in storage and is coming out of the fields. As we're expanding to Georgia, we're finding some different scenarios there, where the networks, the supply chains supporting small and medium scale farmers are not as advanced, and therefore the production is not as abundant.
And it seems to me that there needs to be, for those institutions to understand the value of a non-conventional food source, a sort of context and an understanding about the benefits of local and regional food. Is
Yeah.
that how do you work with other organizations that are also working in this space to help build that context for those buyers?
Yeah, of course. I mean, education is a big part of the work. Rarely does an institution just want to buy local because often they are driven by their constituents. They're hearing it from their customers. So there are student organizing groups like Real Food Challenge that's done an amazing job at educating the administrators at universities about the why the values of food and procurement matter to them. And there's a tremendous amount of organizing happening, I think, in all regions, communicating the importance of local, sustainable, and the small family farm, as well as the opportunity for that food to nourish people who have less access to good food.
And the model is obviously replicable because you're expanding. You're a nonprofit. Can we scale food hubs with this model to lots of other regions without depleting some of the grant-making or philanthropic resources that are finite?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're having success. We reached break-even scale with our operations in the Mid-Atlantic in our 5th year. As we roll out to Georgia, we think that we can do that in a condensed time frame, probably about 3 years. It does require a degree of subsidy to do this, but I'd also make the argument that pretty much all food enterprise in America is subsidized by the U.S. government in some way or another. To direct philanthropy in supporting market-driven activity that improves the quality of life, again, the health and well-being of communities through food, I think is a worthwhile use of their funds.
Absolutely. What's your biggest challenge?
Our biggest challenge actually is managing growth and finding, attracting talent to help us manage that growth. In the Mid-Atlantic, we were just reviewing our numbers for January. We grew 40% over the prior year's January, and our growth for all of 2015 was about 25%. And that's without even having all of the human capacity to respond to the demand and the need in our marketplace. We've been growing fast but growing smart and growing sustainably, and we're excited to bring this model to other regions.
And tell us one really great concrete success story in the course of your work at Common Market.
Sure, there are many. One that I'm really excited about right now is actually came about in partnership with a grant from the USDA and another grant through a regional foundation, where we effectively re-granted money to support infrastructure on the farm. So working with a group of Amish, it's actually an Amish co-op of farmers, and we help support them acquiring and assembling a hydro cooler to do better quality post-harvest handling for their brassicas, so their broccolis and several other crops. And they have grown their brassica program to what was just a couple acres at the time to dozens of acres now. And the demand for their product, because it's the highest quality broccoli in the region has been phenomenal. So
That's great.
it's been an amazing experience using some of the capacity we have in our organization to attract funds to support infrastructure investments on farm in our region.
That's great. This is Kathleen Frith for Edible Education 101. I've been speaking with Haile Johnston from Common Market.